Polling takes place between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Prevent security in real time.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the New Year's Eve edition, or New Year's Day Eve, however you want. I don't know how to explain it. We're getting a little confusing here to start today. I don't want to do that. No, but it is New Year's Eve, December 31st, last day of 2021. Get ready to ring in 2022, and yeah, that means the NFL season is just about ready to wrap up. The MVP discussion is heating up. The race for the top seed in both conferences are heating up, or at least they could come to a conclusion this weekend, depending on a couple outcomes. But either way, it's an exciting time of the year, and one of my favorite days of the year. You know why, John? You know why? Because I get to watch the Three Stooges all day, every day, or all day today and into the morning, because that's just what I do, and that's what I've done since I was a kid, and it's a tradition that I carry on every New Year's.
Now, do you get Chinese food tonight? Because that's the other tradition.
I used to. I haven't done it in a while, but you know what? Now that you say it, I think I'm gonna have to tonight. Oh, we used to get that a lot. Like when I was a kid, it was Chinese food. It was New Year's. It was I was eighth grade, ninth grade, 1999 to 2000, Y2K, all that. I remember everyone hanging out at the house, all that
Mm.
nonsense. Which is 20 some odd years ago now, but 22 actually, because well, it's pretty easy to do that math. So I'm not going to pretend like I don't know the math. Uh, but yeah, pretty mild. I was never. Look, I think anyone who goes to Times Square, and this is even before the pandemic, anyone who goes to Times Square to celebrate New Year's is a maniac. That's the only thing I have, and I apologize ahead of time if you went at one point in your lifetime. But it's just, to me, it's absurd. I just see nothing appealing about that whole situation, and every year I sit there and I'm just staring at the people standing in that crowd. I'm like, what the hell? What were you thinking? You are going to regret the hell out of this when you're trying to get the hell out of that mess. And I don't know. So maybe you share the same
Yeah,
thoughts as I do.
I'm with you on that. I mean, during my drinking heydays, which was, let's say, 1982 to 1992, I was kind of like the Joe Montana era
Yeah.
of drinkers.
There you go.
And I won more often than Joe Montana, or in the case of my health, I lost a lot more than Joe Montana lost. But even then, New Year's Eve wasn't a big deal for me because I was drunk 365 days a year. So what's the difference whether it's December 31st, January 1st, or April 25th? So it wasn't a big deal for me. And since I stopped drinking in 1992, I would say 75% of the time, I'm not even up at midnight. Like I'm already asleep by then, or I kind of doze off at like 11 and wake up at 12:15, and it's like, oh, we've got a new year. Hopefully, the next one will be better than the last one, which was hopefully better than the one before, but I'm not sure. So yeah, you're watching the Three Stooges. I'll be watching college football today, the two big games, Alabama against Cincinnati, and then Michigan against Georgia. So those are going to be, I think, pretty interesting. I like college football. I'm not a huge college football fan. Like I don't plan my day around it, but I do enjoy watching. I'm going to be rooting for Michigan, to be honest with you, because I'm the one guy that likes Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh. I must be that one person out there that can say that.
Yeah, I do not say that. I am the exact opposite of you when it comes to that. I'm not a fan of the Harbaughs, although I am with you. I'm not. I've never had a big. Not that I don't have an interest in college football. I certainly do, but I just, growing up in the Northeast, it's a professional sports area. You know what I mean? You don't really have a huge college following I mean, again, inside that bubble of New England, there's followings for certain schools, but certainly not at the level that obviously football is down here in the South where I am now and everything like that. Where I'm pretty sure parents would give up their kids for tickets to like an FSU game or something like that. So there's certainly not that attachment to it, but I understand the passion. I'll probably tune in for a little bit, but again, I got right over my left shoulder, right behind the Spider-Man mask. I have eight seasons worth of Stooges DVDs. So I got a lot to get through today, and I'm going to enjoy every single second of it because back in the day, if you remember, it was WB 38, I believe, or something like
Yep.
that. Yeah.
Channel 38. Yep.
Channel 38. You know, every year it was the Stooges marathon. Basically starting around 8 or 9 o'clock at night and just running through until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would stay up and watch it. But to your point, Sean, I have found it more and more difficult as the years go on to stay up later. I'm a bit of an early riser. You know, you get up at
Mhm.
6:30. It can be a little bit difficult to keep that same energy come 11:30, 12 o'clock. But I will stay up. I'll watch the ball drop. I'm not going to watch anything besides just maybe like the 5 minutes before and the 5 minutes after, and then I'll go right back to Stooges and probably go to sleep. Probably go to sleep because that's what we do. We sleep because we need our rest. We need our beauty rest. John.
Got rest as we get older, absolutely. Although there is a trick. So let's say that your streaming service or your cable network has Italian TV or French TV.
Mhm.
Since they're like 6 hours ahead of us, you can see the ball drop
That's
in
true.
Paris or Rome at 6 tonight. So that's kind of cheating, but what the hell? Why not? You
Yeah.
save on some sleep.
I don't know if I'm getting that far yet, John. Give me another 15,
Not that
20.
old.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe 15, 20 years from now, that'll be far more appealing to me. But no, look, I mean, there is something of a, you know, fear of missing out, I guess, when it comes to, all right, at least let me see the ball. Let me see just this other New Year go. And again, I think, the times that I celebrated, quote unquote, um, were college, when I was in college and sort of, give and take a couple years before and after, just because, obviously that was the heyday of my alcohol, fun. I barely drink now. So trust me, I wouldn't, I make a little sense now at times. Just imagine if I were drinking all the time. So, but yeah, so anyways, during those times it was fun, but even then, it was such a, to me, I always, and I'm gonna feel like a little bit of a Debbie Downer here when it comes to New Year's. I always felt it was just so unnecessarily. There was an unnecessary amount of pressure to have fun on New Year's, and it always made it terrible. You know what I mean? It was always like, oh, we have to do this, we have to do that. If you do, especially when when you're younger, it's like, obviously the whole you being with someone, all that stuff. It just there's too much pressure, too much pressure. And I didn't even really like drinking. I did it to be social. So like, to me, I was just like, let's celebrate, whatever. But as soon as the ball drops, I'm going home and I'm gonna go watch the Stooges. Because, well, again, I've been the same person for the last 25 years. I'm not gonna change. So
The most memorable or forgettable New Year's Eve for me was 1984 into 1985. So that's how old I am. You weren't even born yet. But I was at Suffolk University and I had a party at my house. I was fortunate because I'm the youngest by a long stretch. So by the time I hit the drinking age, my siblings were all out of the house. We had a finished basement. My parents basically said, "That's yours." So, I'd had friends over. In fact, I think my dad was downstairs drinking with us, which was pretty cool. But 84 and 85, I started the afternoon with wine, went to beer, and ended it with champagne. And just remembered around 1:30 in the morning after everybody left, I was like Mount Vesuvius on many occasions. And all I remember is watching the movie Taxi Driver, like on loop, 3 consecutive times, pretty much forgetting what happened on the 1st and 2nd of January, except that BC beat Houston in the Cotton Bowl to finish in the top 5. I remember that was a big sporting event that day because BC never played in major bowls, but that particular year with Flutie winning the Heisman, they went and beat Houston in the Cotton Bowl. They may have been the best team in college football that year. They lost 2 really close games, one to West Virginia, one to Penn State. BYU was the national champ that year, and I think BC would have beat them if they played head to head. That's how good BC was. They had a ton of NFL players. But that's all I remember from like the 1st and 2nd of January 1985. That was like, whoa, this guy's got an issue, right? I mean, he can handle it for the most part, but not 3 different types of alcohol. Wine to beer to champagne. It erupted.
I had and since we're in the nature of sharing our more embarrassing New Year's stories, I do have some. Again, I say that I'm not wasn't a big drinker, but it doesn't mean that I didn't occasionally go a little bit overboard. And on this year in particular, I believe it was my freshman year of college, so we had all come back. We first semester college. This was like the first big break. All that stuff. So, you know your high school friends were still, pretty close at that point. So we all got together and we decided, hey, we're going to rent a hotel room on Route 9 in Framingham and Natick. So to give you kind of an idea of, how it's laid out. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the area. Going
Mhm.
east towards Boston and obviously
Sure.
west towards Worcester. But so, anyways, we rented a hotel room, and this hotel, which happened, I think it was the Holiday Inn or something like that. It was attached to Chili's. Again, I don't know what the landscape of that area is now. It could have changed 10 times over since I've last been there. But not only did we rent a hotel room, but they decided to put a bunch of knucklehead kids all around the same age on the same floor in the same hotel room. So you can kind of draw your conclusions from that, how disastrous it was on New Year's. Not that I partook in any of that because,
No,
well, there's a
like animals.
there's a reason for that. I started drinking rather early, and there were some places like we were going to hang out obviously at the hotel room, but I had another friend that lived across town, not fully across town because Framingham's pretty big, but a couple minutes outside of the main trafficked area, and he was having a bit of a get together with some of our other friends. Now we started drinking at the hotel room, and I got a little bit ahead of myself, and we got over to his house, and we decided to play some drinking games, which always results in just an absolute massive consumption of alcohol. So that's what happened. By 7 o'clock, I was completely just gone, absolutely gone. I remember getting sick in the parking lot of the hotel, and then I woke up the next morning at 6:30 in the morning, hanging off the side of the bed. Um, yeah, this is only the beginning of it. So obviously,
Oh,
I missed the ball drop. I missed all that. I didn't see any of this. I don't really know what happened after 8 o'clock or whatever. But at the time, my mother was living in Attleboro. I graduated high school. She sold her house, so she was down there, and I worked at the Decathlon Sports in Norwood. So where I was in
mhm.
Framingham and Natick, that was about the halfway point. Not exactly, but pretty much ballpark about the halfway point. So I get in my car the next morning. I'm, just I, I'm obviously still hungover. My head is just absolutely pounding right now. I get in the car. I'm like, okay, I need to get home. I need to just sleep for like 3 days. So I start
Mhm.
driving. I get about a mile down the road, and all of a sudden you get that little gulp in your stomach. So I pulled over to
Worst
the
feeling.
side of the road, and one thing led to another. And if anyone knows Route 9, it's a fairly busy area, very highly trafficked, even on New Year's Day, that early in the morning. I was on the side of the road, and I got rid of my business, and I had to wait there for a few minutes to get my composure back. Started to drive. I got onto 95 and started heading south. Well, it took me about 5 minutes before I almost just everywhere in my car. So I had to pull over yet again, lean outside my door, and do that. Well, again, I passed out on the side of the road. Let's put it that way. I had to put my head back because I got dizzy and I was like, I can't drive. So I had to pull over and falling asleep for 40 minutes. How no one pulled me over or pulled up next to me is beyond me. So I was like, all right, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. And I thought, okay, I am much closer to my work than I am at home. So I was like, okay, this is Sunday. At the time, it was Sunday morning, so the store didn't open till 10. Like a lot of retail stores used to do. Their
Mhm.
hours would adjust on Sunday. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna make it there. It was in Norwood on Route 1, just a few miles down the road from Gillette in that area. So again, to give you a little bit of an idea, right by the Dedham border, I believe. Um, so I get there and I park in the parking lot, and mind you, I think this was like 8:30 or so, and I had called my mom to come pick me up. I was like, "Mom, I need you to come pick me up at the Decathlon. I can't make it all the way back. I've been too sick, whatever." So she was like, "Okay, I can do that." And I'm thinking, "All right, that way she can come get me, pick me up before anyone gets to the store, and I can get home and just sleep for an hour or whatever." So I pull into
Mhm.
the parking lot. I park in the front, and I was like, I put my seat back, and I fell asleep. Well, my mom doesn't get there for like 2.5 hours. So since it's Sunday, everyone that was showing up to work that day obviously saw my car, walked over, saw me passed out in my car, and there was like just a mess in my car. I had a paper bag that I somehow thought was going to be able to hold whatever I had to get rid of, and
You thought you were an airplane. boat.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it was bad. They had pictures and stuff like. I mean, when I say pictures, I mean not necessarily Polaroids, but you take a picture, bring it to bring it to the CBS to get it developed because it was what 2004, 2005. So
Yeah, 1 hour with
yeah, we were still kind of transitioning. Yeah, I think I had
yeah.
a Razor phone maybe, but I think maybe that took photos. But so anyways, it was bad. And then the entire ride, in the passenger seat, I told her to bring a bucket. Thank God. And
Oh,
it was
now,
it
did
was
you
it
punch
was
in
bad.
work? Did you still go to work? I mean, I know you and I are
Oh,
kind of cut the way that we don't miss work.
well,
Like,
I didn't have to work that day, fortunately. That
oh,
was
okay, I thought
that.
okay,
Yeah,
thought you had to
that was
work.
a good thing.
You're like I am. I don't think you really punch in sick for work. I've
No,
never
I could never
done that.
afford to. Like,
No,
you know,
I
like it wasn't about me like feeling better and missing work. It was about, oh man, if I don't go to work, I'm not going to make any money and I'm not going to pay my bills. So yeah,
I got to
I
go out and
never thought
drink the
that.
next night, right? So yeah, I was just trained that way from my parents. Like you don't call in sick. Now, obviously, times have changed. If you work in a restaurant and you have the flu, don't go in because
Yeah,
you're just going to give everybody that works there the flu or the customers the flu. Especially now with COVID, obviously, that's a whole other level. But yeah, I've gone into work with kidney stones, which is like the most excruciating pain you can imagine. Yeah, laryngitis on the
mhm.
radio. Finally, they said you got to get off the air. You can't do a radio show with laryngitis. It doesn't like having a quarterback play with a broken collarbone in his throwing arm. So yeah, those stories are crazy, aren't they? And now you're going to be watching the Stooges all day long, probably maybe Chinese food. Although if you're going to do Chinese food, Ian, put the order in now because it takes
Yeah,
forever on New Year's Eve. I don't even attempt to. And again, we're both single guys, so like we're going to call up and order number 10 with rice,
it's gonna be simple,
wings,
nice and
ribs.
easy. Yep.
They're going to look at it and they're going to hang up on us because they're putting together like $125 orders for families. So
Well, well,
don't order unless you
fortunately,
go pick it up yourself.
yeah, fortunately, where I live, the Chinese food restaurants are a dime a dozen. Just because
Right.
I'm in a essentially like a mini city, so like go a mile down the street and you have every same restaurant, department store, and everything twice
Exactly.
over. So there's
Yep.
plenty of options. So that's something I will be planning. But yeah, I mean, I nowadays again, I have no interest in trying to get that type of effed up, as they say, and that was very regrettable um, for many reasons. Because as much as it's ha ha funny, some of the choices I made were not choices I am proud of. Let's just put it that way. And
But you
certainly,
were 19 years old. I mean,
yeah,
that's
well, the decision to drink underage, obviously, that's it. That.
well, I was there too.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Well,
point fingers. I was
technically,
drinking pretty heavily senior year of high school, so
well,
I can't really.
technically I was only 18 because I was actually I turned 18 my freshman year of college because I was 17 still
Right.
in
Okay.
college
Yeah.
because I was a little bit young, the good old
Yeah. You were
days
right on
when
the
I was the
border of
young
maybe
one.
being a year ahead.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I was kind of like in the middle of the pack because I'm April. So,
yeah.
when I was in school, there was like half the kids were older, half the kids were younger, which is pretty good. But yeah, you're at the tail end where you could have either been the youngest or if you waited a year to go, you would have been the oldest. But yeah, I mean, those are things we all did when we were old, young and crazy. Now we're just old and crazy and
Yeah.
do other things. Run stats for the NFL MVP, or I'm ranking the top 50 players in NBA history, or something stupid like that. Maybe we should start drinking again. It might be more
I was
fun,
gonna say,
at least
yeah.
for those following us on Twitter.
Hey, you know what? If you follow me on Twitter, you know that maybe I'm doing just as much damage to my health as I
Oh
would be
God, yeah,
drinking all the time. So
yeah,
you
yeah,
never know.
exactly, yeah.
No, but I got a bone to pick with you, John. Though I got a bone to pick
What did
with
I do now? Oh my lord, I didn't do anything, did I?
you. No,
I
I
have to
should.
speak on behalf of one Aaron Rodgers. I'm
Well,
the only person is Aaron Charles Rodgers, by the way, and
well,
I think we should start calling him AC Rodgers. I think that would be
AC Rogers. Okay.
well because those types of names really put forth how big of a DB that people are, right? When they
Well,
have the two initials like AJ, whatever, or what, that's when you really kind of jump the shark and you're really completely in love with yourself. So AC Rogers, that's what I'm going to start calling my guy.
AC Rogers. Well,
Yeah.
I had the unfortunate situation of having to deal with a bunch of Packers knuckleheads, and I had a suspicion that maybe you sicked him on me. But the real reason
No,
why the real
no,
reason why I said that I had a bone to pick with you was just an excuse, John, because I needed to say I know it was you, and you broke my heart. You broke my heart, John. And the reason I
Michael
say
Corleone.
that's
Michael
right.
Corleone.
That's right.
Sonny. Yep.
and you know
So
when
you're
that
calling
happened?
me Sonny Corleone? You know what an insult that is to Italian Americans?
I know.
There's
I know.
three sons.
Look,
You pick the one that's kind of a boob, right?
I've been trying for 30 minutes to figure out how to naturally and organically work that in because, well, we all know that happened on New Year's.
There's a plane waiting for us to take us to Miami in an hour. They'll make a big thing about it. I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart. You broke my heart.
Any excuse I could use to play that clip on New
Oh,
Year's Eve,
God.
of course.
Any bit of that movie. That to me is the greatest movie ever made, Godfather Part 2.
Oh, it's incredible, and that's also options when it comes to what to watch on New Year's because look, I mean there's not that many notable or at least ones that I enjoyed because I think a lot of New Year's Eve themed movies are kind of sappy love stories and stuff like that. I mean, I remember they came out with a silly like coming of age teenage film like probably like 10 years ago. It was called like New Year's Eve and like during one of the promos, I'll never forget this because I just thought it was so stupid. It kind of plays into my feelings on how much pressure's in New Year's. It's like, one of the kids was like, this is the biggest night of my life. I'm like, ugh, just eye roll. And I'm like, all right, this is another stupid, probably teenage movie. And if anyone's actually seen that movie, please, I beg of you, chime in. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe it's the greatest movie never seen by people. But that got me thinking, though, John. Godfather 2. Obviously, New Year's Eve, that whole scene happened right after the ball drop. But there's a couple other movies that popped into my mind that I enjoyed. Obviously, Ocean's 11, both the original and the remake. Both. That was obviously something. Ghostbusters 2, that had a little bit of a New Year's Eve bit to it. Boogie Nights, if anyone likes, that movie. And, of course, one of my favorite, Wesley Snipes and and Woody Harrelson collaborations, Money Train. That was a New Year's Eve movie, and I haven't seen that in a long time. And I'm getting the urge to watch that because I love that movie, or at least I loved it when I saw it. I don't know, maybe it's kind of not as good as I thought it was since the last time I've seen it.
What chemistry those two guys had,
great.
right?
He's
I mean,
great.
you could put them in anything. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't done more together. I've always liked Wesley Snipes. I think he's like the perfect, the roles he plays, he's just perfect in them. And Woody Harrelson is extremely talented as well. They're both talented guys, and the chemistry is great. Yeah, too bad they haven't been in as many movies. I think Wesley Snipes had some sort of tax issues.
Yeah,
Let's hope that doesn't fail his career. I mean, let the guy work and pay the taxes off. I mean, what that makes more sense than blackballing him. But I always liked Wesley Snipes. I always thought he was really, really good.
I loved him in what was the I can't believe him. U.S. Marshals. The obviously the kind of the spin-off to oh my God.
The Tommy Lee Jones.
And I'm just
The Fugitive.
Thank you.
Fugitive.
Oh my God.
Am I starting to rub off on you with
so.
the senior
I think
moments?
so.
Yeah, because you're too young to be going there. I mean, I have an excuse. I'm 58 and I'm heavily medicated. I'm on the verge of blind over here, taking more drops than I know what to do. But at least I have that excuse. You should be, unless it's Tom Brady. You seem to be slipping up here.
Well, that's the thing. My mind is just mad. Like I wake up in the middle of the night and I just think about like past DVOA and PFF grades and EPA and touchdowns and interceptions and all that. And I can't think about anything else. No, I mean
anything else.
Yeah, like I shouldn't. I love I have the DVD. I know the movie. I love that movie. I don't care. I mean, come on, who doesn't know that line? I mean, maybe people under the age of 35, but at least in my mind, I think everyone knows that movie and loves that movie.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care.
My only bone to pick with that movie is, and I loved it. I thought it was sensational. Is Tommy Lee Jones won Best Supporting Actor for that, and I think that was more of a lifetime achievement. Really sensational actor, right? I called him the poor man's Robert Duvall, which to me is an incredible compliment. Because Robert Duvall is one of the greatest actors we've ever had. But Ray Fiennes in Schindler's List was the scariest freaking villain I've ever seen in any movie. And I thought he should have won Best Supporting Actor for that, but he didn't. And I love Ray Fiennes too. But that's my only bone to pick. But The Fugitive is sensational. I mean, kind of one of those movies that it's a popcorn movie. It's got action in it. It's got a little bit of comedy. It's got drama. it's got everything rolled into it, and it's like really popular, but it's really good. You don't see that a lot. Like sometimes wildly popular movies, you can kind of look at them and go, well, they're kind of aimed at the lowest common denominator, but that's a really smart movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about the people he had in that movie too. Obviously, Tommy Lee
Mm-hmm.
Jones, Harrison Ford, and then you had Joe.
Joe,
Pat. I can't pronounce his last name. You know who? The guy from like.
Joe Pantoliano.
Yes, thank
He was
you.
from The Sopranos.
Yeah,
Yep,
Sopranos.
He played,
He was in Bad Boys and stuff like that.
Yep.
So
really good character.
yeah, really good character, and even the other supporting actors too. And then you go to U.S. Marshals, which again is you get the same ragtag group of investigators together, but only this time you add in a young Robert Downey Jr., which again anyone knows he's Iron Man, but not Iron Man then. I think he was just getting out of his really rough period of his life, or actually pretty sure that actually rehappened. That we all know his story. Obviously he got into a lot of problems with drugs and stuff, especially in the 80s and 90s and stuff like that, and certainly turned his life around and became again Iron Man. But at the time he was in that movie, and he was great as kind of like that double agent type guy. And but I always now kind of thinking of Robert Downey Jr. I always think of Back to School. That was my first I think introduction to him. And one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh yeah, no, that was really good. That was a shock to me because I went to see it at the theater. Where did it come out in 2003?
What?
It come in? No, Back to School actually came out earlier.
That was in the 80s. Oh, that was late 80s. Yeah,
right.
That was way back then.
In fact, my friend Steve Sweeney's in that.
Oh, I think
Boston,
I feel like
legend.
I think you told me that. I feel like you might have told me that. But yeah, that was that had to have been. I want to say late. I'm going to look it up because
maybe.
Yeah,
was it 80?
I think
yeah,
so.
Dave was huge in that. I had confused it. What was the Will Ferrell movie?
Old School.
Okay, yeah. Again, I'm having
Back to School is 86. Yeah, because if you just look what Robert Downey Jr. looks like, you'd definitely say, that can't be anything later than the mid 80s.
No, because he's I think my age, maybe a year younger, so he was 21 or 22 with that. A very talented actor. Man, he could do anything. I mean, comedy, action, drama. He's very talented guy. I'm glad he's recovered from his problems and has had a really great career.
Yeah, and he was funny in that movie. Obviously, Rodney Dangerfield was great. I don't know how we got to Back to School when it was kind of a New Year's Eve theme discussion, but that's what we do. Our brains work in mysterious ways, John. We just kind of bounce around and jump around.
And you get talking about you too, mysterious ways. Don't get me started. Favorite group of all time.
Oh no. Unfortunately we don't have enough time for that because we do have things to do today, and that is, since it's Friday, means we're going to give our picks for this weekend, and no Thursday night football. So there's a lot of games on Sunday, one game on Monday. So we're going to jump into that in just a minute. I think we've I think we've exhausted the MVP discussion for this week. There's not much going to change between what we've already talked about and before the game happens. So we're going to have to wait to see what happens this Sunday. I do think, like I said offline, that a reasonable and relatively expected performance against the Jets, which should probably include multiple touchdowns and a pretty solid, passing yard number, should elevate Brady over Rodgers in a lot of these efficiency metrics that Rodgers is barely edging him out now, because he did gain a lot of ground just this past weekend. So I think a pretty solid game against the Jets, and a difficult matchup against the Vikings for the Packers. I know the Vikings aren't certainly a team that's always playing at their best, but divisional matchups like that are going to be tough, and I think the Vikings have the potential to give the Packers a little bit of trouble, which in the race this tight, that's all it's going to take to change or swing the momentum one way to the other. But before we get to our picks, John, 15 finalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2022 was announced yesterday. Obviously it still has to get cut down to to 10, and then obviously the 5 finalists will be announced. But first timers Devin Hester, DeMarcus Ware, and Andre Johnson made the cut. Returning guys Torrey Holt, Reggie Wayne, Tony Baselli, Jared Allen, Richard Seymour, Sam Mills, Zach Thomas, Rondé Barber, and Leroy Butler all returned after being finalists last year. And of course, Bryant Young, Patrick Willis, and Willie Anderson as well. So, any surprises for you? Any disappointments, or just general thoughts on what is getting down to the nitty gritty when it comes to picking the next class of the Hall of Fame?
I think for the first time ever, Ian, I look at the class of the 15 finalists, and they're all like borderline candidates. Like there's no easy one. It's not Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or Ray Lewis or anybody like that where you go, oh, Hall of Famer. And I know how the procedure works where the 50 voters get together and who's ever representing that player stands up and says their name. And then when it comes time for Tom Brady, probably Ron Borges is going to be the presenter. And I think Ron will just stand up and go Tom Brady, and the other 49 people will go approved.
Yeah.
So whatever they say, it's what I'm saying. There's no brainers. There's no discussion. With these 15 guys, I think there's going to be some give and take there, right? I mean, I don't think it's going to be Andre Johnson had a really good career, but he's not Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson had a better career. There's just a lot of guys. I'm hoping that Seymour makes it. I've always been a big fan of Richard Seymour. I mean, he's such an integral part of winning 3 Super Bowls for the Patriots. I hope he gets in there. And I know Borges is his presenter and has worked really hard to make a case for Richard Seymour, as he did with Ty Law. So that's the guy I'm going to be rooting for. I mean, I guess I'm a Packers fan, so I wouldn't mind seeing Leroy Butler in there. But I know that Clark Judge wrote a really good piece about Sterling Sharp this week, which I love, because I cannot believe he's not in the Hall of Fame. He was right there with Jerry Rice as the best receiver in football for about a 5-6 year period. I mean, his numbers are ridiculous. I mean, back at an era where it wasn't quite as pass happy, but he's going to have to get into the Veterans Committee, and I hope he does. He belongs in the Hall of Fame. He like Terrell Davis is didn't have a really long career. Sterling Sharp to me belongs in the Hall of Fame, but he's not one of the 15 finalists. But yeah, that's the takeaway I got. As soon as I was looking at all the names, I'm like, there's no slam dunks here, but there's also a case to be made for them, which doesn't really make good talk radio, right? You're supposed to come up here and like pound the table that I can't believe this guy is even included in this group, or I can't believe this guy isn't already in. But the one guy I'll be rooting for Seymour for sure.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I'm very fortunate to right now be able to work pretty closely with a couple of the voters. You already mentioned Clark, and we recently had John Turney on, who's a football historian, and incredible insight into everything. He was part of the group that went back and started counting sacks prior to 1982, which the NFL hadn't done yet, which again changes a lot of the perception of some of these older players. But this is a perfect year where you're going to have a chance to kind of get in guys that I think I think Richard Seymour deserves to be in. He's been a finalist for a few years now, and when Bill Belichick speaks as highly as he does about a guy like he speaks highly of Rodney Harrison too, but of Richard Seymour, I think that carries a lot. Rondé Barber, first and only member of the 40-20 club, 40 interceptions, 20 sacks. He has more plus than that. That's impressive. And you think back to really how much he really, I would say, changed that slot corner position. I mean, I think he kind of gets lost a lot in the mix when it comes to talking about great cornerbacks and great defensive backs in this era. But you'd be hard pressed to convince me or most people that he wasn't deserving of this honor. So you think about guys like Barber, and you already mentioned Butler, Richard Seymour, maybe Tony Baselli. Those guys will maybe get that chance to get in, because think about it, John. This year we don't have one of those guys that are just you don't have to make a case for. But
right
in the coming years, it's going to be a lot of quarterbacks, which is going to hurt a lot of the guys that have been sitting on this list for a while. Because in 4 years you're going to have Eli Manning, you're going to have Phillip Rivers. In 5 years, assuming Ben Roethlisberger is done after this year, and he pretty much said as much, he's going to be up. Whenever Rodgers and Brady retire, I mean, hell, they may retire in the same year, and guess what? They're both going in the very same year. So, again, what's going to happen when you get to that season? And it's like, well, you have Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Well, guess what? That's 2 year 5 right there. And what's going to happen to some guy that's been on the list for 10 years? So if Richard Seymour is hanging around for a couple more years, like maybe he gets pushed further and further down. And as we know, there's only so many years you have of eligibility. And I think there's going to be a lot of really good players coming. Eli Manning, I didn't even mention him, retired, obviously, coming up in 4 years. And I think Eli's going to get in. I think Ben Roethlisberger deserves and will get in. I don't think that about Philip Rivers. I don't.
Mhm.
Drew Brees. I didn't even mention Drew Brees, and I'm not going to get. I'm not going to get on the bad side of Saints fans today. So I'm just going to say, yeah, obviously he's going to get in. So again, there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks coming up in the next 4 or 5 years. Not all of them will get in, but a lot of them will, and that's going to create some issues. Certainly for some guys that are kind of hanging.
You know what's
around
going to
here,
be?
so.
I was just thinking of this, Ian. This is how crazy it is. Do you remember there was a time when people were saying, "Would you trade Tom Brady for Andrew Luck?" Because Luck was the 1st pick in 2012. He got off to a sensational career. Andrew Luck might be eligible for the Hall of Fame, and Tom Brady would still be playing. That's not that far off. It's like 2 years away. If Brady plays 2 more years, Luck will be eligible for the Hall of Fame. I don't know if he'll be a finalist, probably not, but he will be eligible for the
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. Which just, I mean, here's a guy who's drafted 12 years after Brady, had a really good career, looked like he was going to be an all-time great, retires, waits the 5 years, is eligible for the Hall of Fame, and Brady's still out there, doing what he does. I mean, that's like Calvin Johnson was drafted 8 years after
Yeah.
Brady was drafted. He's already in the Hall of Fame. It's like that, all that stuff that we talk about, that blows my mind. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I think of those 3 quarterbacks who were drafted in the same year that Roethlisberger has had the best career because he's got as many Super Bowls as Eli. He
Yeah.
went to another Super Bowl, did lose. And I think if you would just say which of these 3 quarterbacks is the best, I would say Roethlisberger. And
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
put those guys up there with obviously Rodgers or of course not Brady, but I would say I would rank him the best of the 3. And then I'd probably put Eli second because he did have those 2 great playoff runs, and then Rivers third, although Rivers has more raw numbers than the other 2, more touchdown passes and all of that stuff, but not the team success.
Yeah, which I mean, again, this is where it does factor, especially for quarterbacks,
Mhm.
because no one's, Rivers had this success, but he also, I mean, Antonio Gates, Danian Tomlinson, I mean, he had a lot of really good teams around him, and it's unfortunate, their best team in 2006, had to run into the Patriots, but that goes against him, and I think obviously, Ben's kind of turned into a bit of a maybe punchline is a little bit too harsh. I think people just kind of, just have, he's always injured and banged up, and he's obviously, not the guy that he used to be. There's people that obviously pulled his actions earlier in his career against him, which deservedly so. So there's a little bit of that. But, obviously looking at his play in a vacuum, that guy put up numbers. He put up
Oh,
numbers.
yeah.
He was
Yeah.
consistent, and he kept.
Up.
Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that guy took a beating. For all the people complaining about quarterbacks don't get hit, go back and watch Ben Roethlisberger play this position. And this is before
Man.
they really, really started to baby quarterbacks. In terms of like you can't you know blow on them too hard or you're going to get a flag. This was Ben Roethlisberger, like, oh, you're not down. Well, guess what? We're not going to blow the whistle, so we're going to let all these guys hit you and drag you down to the ground. That was Ben Roethlisberger, and again, I think
He's a bit like a bit like Brett Favre. I put him below Brett Favre as a quarterback all
yeah.
time, but similar in some sense, like just kind of like the big gunslinger, prone to turnovers at the wrong time, but still really tough. Like just didn't
Mhm.
miss games, would get knocked down, knocked around, and just get up and keep playing. Physical style of football. Like those were like Madden guys. I know
Yeah.
we haven't talked much on Madden this week, but Madden loved Brett Favre. I mean, I'm convinced that was his favorite player ever, or either he or Lawrence Taylor. But those types of guys, and Roethlisberger kind of fits into that mold. Just not necessarily a cerebral quarterback, and Favre wasn't either. He didn't know what a nickel defense was when he first got to Green Bay, but he got through all that. But he's similar to that. So yeah, I think you're right about that, Ian. That Roethlisberger he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer unless he's in a class that's loaded, which makes it difficult. I would love to see Brady and Rodgers go in together. That would be fantastic. We'd have to make the pilgrimage
Yeah.
to Canton, Ohio, wouldn't we? At that point, I'm
Yeah,
waiting to go to.
I would say so. Absolutely. Well, look, I don't even know. Look, I wouldn't say with 100% certainty that Ben Roethlisberger would be a first ballot Hall of Famer because again, I'm a little bit biased, and
Mhm.
am influenced by the opinion of some people that have been doing this for a while, but I think that first ballot has been greatly, and we've actually talked about this before, has been greatly overvalued in
Sure.
recent years. Whereas, like, voters are tending to put in more and more first ballots, where it's like, well, this is where you cause a problem. This is where guys end up like, a guy like Clay Matthews last year. Was in his last year of eligibility. The Browns Clay, not Packers Clay Matthews, for all you youngins out there.
The
He's
one with the short,
yeah,
shorter hair.
yeah, exactly. So again, he's out of that group now. He has to go into the senior candidate pool, which is good luck. Um, so yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I think there's Ben Roethlisberger again, like you said, he's not like he's a guy that I think will be a Hall of Famer, but someone has to give a speech for him. You know what I mean? Like with Brady, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
Exactly.
Ron Borges, assuming it's him, could literally walk up, assuming it's on a stage if we're ever out of COVID and it's not on Zoom for here on
Right.
out. But he could literally walk up the stage, not even stop at the podium, just hold up 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever Super Bowl total
Mhm.
Brady ends with, and that's it. Just walk right off the stage. Remember that Simpsons episode where they're trying to where Apu and all the bachelors were being auctioned off, and for the fire truck or whatever. Well, when Mo comes up, the description of him was, and this guy likes women who take their clothes off for money, and he just walked right past the podium. Well, that's exactly what someone's going to have to do
Right.
with Tom Brady. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to go up there and put on a show or show. No, it's Tom Brady. Okay, that's it. Moving on.
Yeah,
Quick
that's it.
discussion.
Yeah,
That's
same
it.
thing.
So,
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
um,
it was like that with Manning. It
yeah.
was like that with Elway. I think it was like that with Marino. I know we pushed back on Marino, but the guy was an all-time great
Oh,
quarterback.
sure,
So
sure.
there's certain easy ones. Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Very, very simple ones. Obviously, Brady is the best of them all. So he walks right in, and I think Rodgers would walk in on his first year of eligibility. Although, in a sense, I don't know if you want them sharing the stage. That's maybe a little bit too much
Well, I
power.
was actually just going to ask you
thing.
that, and I don't want to take up too much time on this because we're going to have to fly through our predictions here in just a minute. But real quick, like, do you think? So imagine they retire at the same time,
Which could happen.
which could very well happen. They could very well
Fetch.
retire
Yeah.
in the same exact year, which obviously would make them eligible in the same exact year. Do they put 2 quarterbacks in?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
think so? I mean,
think that,
again,
I would think
I
that's a
would
better
think they'd
question.
have to.
Clark, but I would think I mean,
'cause,
those
like,
two guys.
yeah, and I believe so too. But like, I mean, who knows who else is going to be up at that time, or what the situation is, or what the final. You know what I mean? Like, it's so hard to tell exactly what it is, and
Yeah.
maybe they think, well, it's like, look, if say they had to only choose one quarter, obviously Brady's going to get in over him.
Oh,
If
yeah.
they had to only choose one quarterback, so I wonder if, say it's again a class not like this one where like we're kind of like, okay, you can make a case for everyone, but you can also kind of make a case against everyone, whether it's some validity or not. But what if you just have just this massive room of
Mhm.
multiple guys that, like, I mean, imagine if Aaron Donald and all 3 of those guys retired at the same
Oh, yeah.
time. All of a sudden,
I think they're all in.
yeah,
And,
exactly.
and how about J.J. Watt?
Yeah.
Well, although I mean, J.J. Watt looks like he's pretty much at the end of his career and now. But I see what you're saying. If you got like last year was a loaded class, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Because it was like Peyton Manning, no brainer. Charles Woodson, no brainer. I mean, I have a tendency to overrate Charles Woodson a little bit. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the history of football. I think I would put Charles Woodson right alongside Deion Sanders and Rod Woodson. I think they're all.
Well, I mean, Charles.
play.
He was an elite
Charles Woodson,
corner and
yeah.
an elite safety,
Yeah,
and
as
for a
was
very
Rod,
long period of time.
as was Rod Woodson. I mean, Rod Woodson has
Yeah.
more interceptions than Deion Sanders. He just didn't have a nickname.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
then-
you know,
yeah. And obviously,
and he didn't have
the
the
Super Bowls, the
personality.
flash, and yeah, exactly,
Right.
the
Yeah.
swagger that Dion has. And like, look, no one.
no,
I mean, Dion's great, and I think what
Oh.
he's doing at Jackson State, anyone who follows what he's doing down there, it's just incredible. I mean, he seems
Phenomenal.
it seems like he's just a great coach as well. So I mean, it's not just like for him. So, but yeah, I'm right there with you. It's going to be interesting, and like I said, I mean, it could create a little bit of uneasiness because we've seen these classes where it's like you have a few no-brainers, like you said, Charles Woodson and Peyton Manning, but one was offense, one was defense, one was a quarterback,
Right.
one was a corner back and safety. I wonder if there is a situation that occurs where you have Aaron Donald and Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and I wish I had a couple other names that could potentially retire and be no brainers right now. Where
Adrian Peterson maybe, but although he's pretty much done.
yeah,
we know
he's pretty much done. But that's the thing. As a guy like him, he could straggle along for another year or two. You know what I mean?
That's the thing too, right?
So and he would be again. I would think he would be no brainer first ballot. So all of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute. If we have all these no-brainer first ballots, and again, it's nothing against Aaron Rodgers, but I wonder if that would be an issue. You know what I mean? Like because and
it may impact. Does he? I mean, I don't know. Who the hell wants to get in the brain of Aaron Rodgers? That would be very difficult. But is that a big deal? Does he want to play one more year than Brady played? And look, he's 6 years younger, and he's in pretty good health.
Look,
right?
I honestly
he does take care of himself. Roethlisberger, you see the end coming because Roethlisberger started to look. I look to be in better shape than Ben Roethlisberger in the last few years. But Rodgers, I think, does take care of himself. So I think
he does.
He should play the Brady. He also has the type of personality that in 2 years goes, the hell with this, I'm going to host Jeopardy. Whereas Brady's like so driven. He might be shocked when Brady retires, even if he's 48.
And that's kind of it because, I think we both agree. Not every sports cliche is necessarily true, and some of it, but there's one where it's like, look, when you start talking about retirement,
right,
you kind of already are on that way out. So Rodgers again, would it shock me if he retired after this year? I'd be surprised a little bit, but it wouldn't shock me. So to me, I don't know if he necessarily wants to play. I don't think he has it in his mind that he has to play one more year than Tom Brady. You know what I mean? I don't think that matters necessarily to him. I think he's going to do whatever he does. I don't think he's too concerned.
Well, 1 year left, for all we know. Like you said, he could. If they win the Super Bowl this year, he might say enough. Although I think he's playing at such a high level, why would he retire? But look, Elway had a really good year in '98. They won the Super Bowl. He was a Super Bowl MVP, and he said enough.
Yeah.
But he also played in a different era where quarterbacks got beat up more so than they do now. So I think Elway at that point was like, I've had enough. And I always think with these quarterbacks, it's not necessarily physical. It's just mental. I don't want to do this anymore. Brady's so damn competitive that I don't know when that day is coming. I mean, again, I've called him a sociopath, and that's an endearing term, not a real sociopath. But the fact that he is just so in love with football and competition,
the process,
and the whole
practice
and all that stuff. And I think Rodgers likes that a lot, although sometimes he'll skirt off of that. And
but even the greatest competitors, though, eventually, and this is no knock on them because it's just. We got to remember that Brady's just not normal. So, what he does is not a fair comparison to everyone else. So, when you get to the age that Rodgers is at, and eventually he gets up, he's like, you know what? I don't want to do that. That's not a knock on him. That's just normal.
Oh,
that's normal. That's a normal, matured, developed thought process for a 38, 39-year-old quarterback. You know what? I'm done with this. Brady. It's just a psychopath. I mean, stop. You can't keep comparing him to. And again, that's what makes him great. Aaron Rodgers is great in his own right, but I wonder. And to your point, if they win the Super Bowl, honestly, I feel like my percentage of feeling like he would retire would go up. I feel like he's a guy who would decide, you know what, I'm gonna just like George Costanza. I'm going to go out on top. That's it. I'm going to go out on top because, look, I mean, we all know that Tom obviously went through a long period of time where, he didn't win a Super Bowl. Now, he went to multiple Super Bowls. There were always contenders. And by the time he finally did get over the hump, he was still a relatively young guy. If Rodgers and the Packers finally get over that hump, I don't know if he's looking at it okay, we finally did it. We can keep doing it. I think he's going to stay damn. I mean, it just took us 11 years to get back. I don't know if you know what I mean? It's a little bit different timing, whereas he might look at it and just be like, you know what? I'm happy.
And he's so spiteful. He's so spiteful. He might say, okay, go put Jordan Love in and see what you do.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, team. I mean, that's the way he's wired.
Well, and also think about that. Brett Favre, he passed his record. He owns
Yep.
that record. No one's gonna. You're not gonna break that record. That's gonna stand for
Okay.
quite some time for the Packers. So you
Yep.
know what? He's accomplished that. He goes out on top as a 2-time Super Bowl champion. I mean, that's. Again, if they win the Super Bowl, I think it actually increases the chances that he retires.
Yep.
If they don't, I wouldn't be shocked if he did. But it would be a little surprising. But anyways, now that
And
we are,
that being said, before we go to the picks, one quick comment.
Yeah.
There's more pressure on him than any other quarterback going into the postseason. I don't think it's close. But the reason being, Brady's legacy is, I mean, whether
Yeah.
it's 7 or 8, at that point, what's the difference? Although for him it is. The AFC is loaded with all these young dudes that are brilliant young quarterbacks. They're going to be around for a decade. With Rodgers, this is like, okay, you've got another chance. You may get home field advantage again. Your guys are getting back healthy. There's going to be fans in the stands. It's going to be 6 degrees this Sunday. So, everything is set up for you. He's got more pressure on him than any other player in the league by far going to the postseason. So, it's put up or shut up time for him. And look, as his biggest supporter, I'm ready, willing, and able to say that.
And he has to win. And he has
Oh,
to
yeah.
he has to win it.
Yep.
It's not just about getting back there. It's about winning. And exactly to your point. I mean, his legacy has the most to gain in a vacuum. Like, people sit there and obviously put his legacy up against Tom Brady's, which is absurd. And again, it creates stupid debate amongst people on TV and stuff like that. He's competing against himself essentially, because as we've talked about, where he's at in the all-time great rankings, he's not going to break through that next level unless he wins again, because you're talking about now jumping into the multiple Super Bowl winner groups. And it's not just people who won multiple Super Bowls, because, obviously with Brady, you get Eli Manning won too. Well, Eli Manning also hasn't thrown the most yards, the most touchdowns, blah, 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 blah.
Jim won 2 Super Bowls, and Ben Roethlisberger did too. None of those quarterbacks measure up to Aaron Rodgers. But if he gets his second Super Bowl, he's in the same group with Manning and Elway.
Yep.
Right at level 3. Level 1
I
is
would say I would say yes, but I think he would be 3 on. You know what I mean? Because I still have to give Elway and Manning credit for obviously going to. This is where yes,
they went to more.
Yeah, they went to more, and I understand. Obviously, it's tough when when you talk about they lost that Super Bowl 43-8 and all that. It's like, okay, that's certainly a case. Yeah, there's certainly a case for him, but you can't dismiss that. Certainly not with Elway, who I think we both agree dragged some pretty poor teams to the Super Bowl back in the day.
They finally gave the guy a defense and a running game, and he couldn't be beat. I mean, he was sensational. Now if Rodgers sticks around, because he's still he's 38, but it looks to me like he's still playing at a high level. I mean, his legacy would blow up if he went to, say, Denver and won a Super Bowl. Now we'd be saying this guy's, pretty sensational. Now you could put him up with Montana. Brady's that's a different category.
Again, I would put that more so on the lines of Peyton Manning.
Right, but Peyton Manning, you're going to another team.
Yeah, because we,
I think this is where we sometimes we disagree in the moment about the two quarterbacks, but a bigger picture, I think we're pretty much in the same in the same path when it comes to, it's Brady, it's Montana. Those are they're kind of their own level. And then you have, again, the Peyton Mannings, the John Elways, where it's multiple Super Bowl wins, multiple Super Bowl, like not just like two Super, like we're talking 4 and 5 apiece,
Yep.
And
Pretty
then
good.
I think you get that next group. So if all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers wins another Super Bowl, I think he's still like kind of on that like fringe third tier again, because Brady, Montana, and then that third tier, if he sticks around and does it again, well, then all of a sudden that's when I think you really see a big movement for him. But
he could even jump over those guys and join Montana. I mean, the thing he has going for him is he wins the 4th MVP this year. Brady's MVPs, that's just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I always put him at the top of that level of Rodgers, ahead of Brett Favre and Dan Marino.
Yeah.
I think he's the best of that group. I mean, think most Packer fans, I don't know, I can't speak for all of them, but I would think they'd say Rodgers over Favre by just a little bit. And I think it comes down to the turnovers. I mean, the guy to get to the same number of touchdowns, Favre threw 286 interceptions,
Yeah,
and
that's
Rodgers has thrown.
that's even taking
That's
into
a
account
huge
the
that
era
era.
difference.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I do at sometimes I'll push back at some of the because like I was actually looking at it today because someone had brought up oh, Brady was just a mediocre quarterback when he first started. I'm like, no, he was like from
Nope.
2001 to 2005, he was fifth with like 18,000 yards, and he was third in total like touchdown passes behind Favre and Manning. Like he was an elite quarterback then, but he also here's the thing: he led the league in interception percentage, like the lowest, and it was like 2.36, which thinking about it now, that's kind of absurd because like
Right.
just the way the game was played though during that time and to Rogers' benefit, not like this made him and I don't want people to because you don't just not throw interceptions. Like that takes an extreme like I know I'm not the obsession with it right now in this race because I don't think it's that big of a difference between the two. But
Mhm.
when it comes to career and a career accomplishment, the ability to not throw in, I mean, that's absurd to do that so
Mhm.
consistently over so many different years. But he's also benefited from playing his entire career in the post defensive legal contact and emphasis on defensive pass
Mhm.
interference era of football, which really, obviously, rules started to change in 1978, and they've always kind of started to favor the offense. But it was post 2004, 2005, that time
Right.
where it really took off. And look,
Yep.
no one's but that didn't make Aaron Rodgers. Plenty of quarterbacks have played their careers in that time frame, and no one else has done that. Outside of Brady has very similar numbers. If you know, go from when Aaron Rodgers basically started starting, you take
Mhm.
say the 2007 season for Brady because he didn't play 2008, and they have the same number of seasons. So they're very similar in that sense. We've talked about that before. Their
Oh
numbers
yeah. Yeah.
are so very similar. So yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting. It'll be fun discourse, I'm sure, in the off season, no matter what happens. So, all right, now
Mhm.
that we're 10 minutes over, let's quickly fly through these picks. I mean, I'm not even going to give too much insight into it. If you really want insight, tune in Sunday morning, Full Press NFL Sunday. We will be doing that as we break down these games as well. So. I'm just going to say the game. I'm going to give my pick, maybe a tidbit here or there, but I'm going to just kind of get through these. So, number one, Atlanta at Buffalo. Buffalo looking to clinch the AFC East or at least put themselves even more in the driver's seat. I'd like to pick against Buffalo, but unfortunately, I cannot do that. Josh Allen is playing really well, so give me close.
Yeah, Buffalo's going to win this by 3 touchdowns, if not more. They're great at blowing out teams, especially a dome team coming to Buffalo in January.
Giants heading to that city in the Midwest that starts with a C, ends with an O, and has a Hicog in the middle. That's right. Chicago Bears. I think they win just by virtue of them being the Bears and the Giants being the Giants, and Bears at home. So give me the Bears.
I'll take the Giants just to be different, but this is one of those games no one really cares about.
Yeah, no, I don't care about it. I just want to make the.
You didn't even want to say the name where the city's being hosted. So
Yeah, I know,
that's how
right?
much.
I didn't even want to do that. So next, though, I am interested in this game for a number of reasons. Cincinnati, my boy, my doppelganger, according to John, Joe Burrow, just coming up 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, hosting Kansas City. This is intriguing. What Cincinnati team we get, I think, is the big question. If they can run the ball, and if this is a Joe Burrow game, they can very well win this game. And I think maybe a false sense of confidence, not that it's not deserved, but maybe a false sense of confidence from Kansas City, like get the Bengals the edge. So I'm going to go a little bit nuts just because I need to see Kansas City lose. Give me the Bengals.
I'll go with the Chiefs. The Bengals have actually played better on the road than they have at home this year. They've lost 4 times at home, only 2 on the road. Kansas City's playing so well, the defense playing at a high level. I'll take the Chiefs in this, but it's just this should have been the Sunday night game. I mean, they should have flexed out of Green Bay, Minnesota. They never flexed out of Green Bay. There's like
No.
two teams they never flexed out of Green Bay and Dallas because of the national brand. But this to me is the most intriguing game of the weekends. But I'll go with the Chiefs.
Next, another really big game: the 8-7 Miami Dolphins heading to Tennessee, who is all of a sudden getting a little bit healthier I think Tennessee wins this game. I've liked what they've done the last couple of weeks. They've looked to have fixed a lot of the issues they had, and I think Miami um, finally has to play a team that has a pretty good offense and certainly a better quarterback than what they've had played. So give me the Titans in this one.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins. I think they continue their winning ways. My only comment here is Tua really left-handed? I almost get the same feeling. Remember when Johnny Damon would throw from center field and is he really left-handed?
Yeah.
Is it national? Same thing with Tua. I think he's right-handed. He's disguising himself as a left-handed quarterback. But I'll take the Dolphins.
Next, we have the Colts hosting the Vegas Raiders. I like the Colts in this one. That's all I got. Colts.
Yeah, Colts, especially if Wentz plays. I mean, he's probably up in the air, but I'll take the Colts.
Again, another pretty easy one. The Patriots hosting, I don't know, half of the Jaguars. I don't even know at this point, but it doesn't matter if they had all 53 or only 33. Give me the Patriots in this one at home.
We'll call it the Pats against the Jags. They're not even the Jaguars. I'll take the Pats handle.
Next, again, in my opinion, a very simple, easy matchup to pick. The Buccaneers heading to New York to take on the Jets. Assuming, again, this isn't one of those games where the Buccaneers get in their own way, this should be a pretty easy victory. And an exclamation point, in my opinion, for Tom Brady's march towards his fourth MVP. Give me the
Yeah, they should win. They should win handily. It seems, Antonio Brown's back. I think in the sense that's his favorite receiver, along with Gronk.
Receiver.
It is his best.
I said this earlier in the season too, so I'm not just reacting based on what we've seen. I like Mike Evans, I like Chris Godwin, but Antonio Brown is just the perfect wide receiver for Tom Brady.
He's the receiver of the decade, right? Yeah. I mean, if you were going to pick the best receiver of the 2010s, it would come down to probably he and Julio Jones. And Antonio,
I think Antonio Brown by a landslide.
Yeah, because he's still relevant, and again, didn't play in a dome. So I'd say Antonio Brown's the best receiver of the decade. Not a real nice human being, but a great football player. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tampa Bay blowout.
Philadelphia at Washington. Washington obviously getting demolished on Monday Night Football this past week. I like Philly in this one. I don't like really either team that much right now, but give me the Eagles.
I'll take Washington because it makes no sense. They looked horrible against Dallas on Sunday night, and Philly looked good against the Giants on Sunday afternoon. And we know how the NFL is. The next week it kind of reverses. I'll take Washington in a mild upset.
Rams heading to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Give me the Rams in this one. I just don't think Baltimore is any good. So
Yes, Lamar. I mean, now he's questionable. Although Hundley's done a nice job stepping in. He didn't play last week because of COVID. I'll take the Ravens. They've lost 3 in a row, 4 in a row now because they got blown out by Cincinnati. I think they'll step up big in this game. And the Rams, I still don't trust them, especially on the road, cold weather, loud crowd. I'll take the Ravens in a mild home upset.
Next, we have the Chargers hosting Denver in an AFC West matchup. I like the Chargers in this one. I know Justin Herbert's kind of fallen off the radar a little bit with the emergence of Joe Burrow, but still another really great quarterback, and I think they handled Denver pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. Payback time, they lost in Denver a few weeks ago. I'll go with the Lightning Bolts.
San Francisco hosting Houston, and the number 2 ranked quarterback in the NFL per EPA per play. Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, that's right. That's right. The category that Aaron Rodgers is leading in, by the way, one of them. 49ers hosting the Houston Texans. I like the 49ers in this one. They're playing some pretty good football, and as much as I kind of joke about Jimmy G, I do think he's a decent quarterback. I certainly don't think he is the second best quarterback in the league, but I think he's good enough to beat this Houston team.
They should beat Houston. Houston somehow managed 4 wins, which is 3 more than I thought they were going to get. But they come off a big win over the Chargers. Oftentimes, a team like that has a big win. The next week, they're flat. So the 49ers should name the score.
Dallas hosting Arizona. I like Dallas because I think Arizona is just absolutely in the tank right now. And perhaps, if this slide continues, maybe Cliff Kingsbury seat gets a little bit hot, which is kind of surprising considering I think a lot of people thought he was a Coach of the Year candidate not too long ago, and I think it'll be tough. So give me the Cowboys.
geez, since Kingsbury was asked about Coach of the Year, and he said they should just name the award after Bill Belichick because he played for him for 1 year, and then Belichick said that Kingsbury should be Coach of the Year. They're combined 0-5, so no more compliments for Stay away from that. It's bad karma. I'm going to go with the Cardinals again. They've lost 3 in a row. They look god-awful. Dallas is just flying into this game. But we know how Dallas is. They have a big performance, and they follow it up with a dud. I'll take the Cardinals. Plus, if the Cardinals beat the Cowboys and the Packers beat the Vikings, the Packers clinch the number 1 seed. So the final week of the season, I can relax.
Yes, you can relax. Sure.
Me and Aaron with his toe.
Yeah,
I can to make sure his toe is okay.
Oh man. Next, we have the Saints hosting the Carolina Panthers. I don't really care about this game. I don't.
No, what is
I
this
don't-
game?
It's look. The Panthers have somehow managed to make the end of Cam Newton's tenure with the Panthers the second time worse than the first time. He's been benched, so Sam Darnold's going to start this game. I'm sure they're going to go back and forth between quarterbacks and whatever. So give me the Panthers in this one because I don't.
I mean,
care.
is Archie Manning playing quarterback for the Saints at this point? I mean, why not? He's only 71 years old.
Better than Taysom
Probably-
Hill.
Oh, better than Ian Book that was out there last week.
Hey.
I know,
Hey.
but he just was given that name. It's your name. He was given that name. Just support your lookalike more than your namesake.
That's okay.
Joe
Fair enough.
Burrow. Stick with your man Joe Burrow, who Steve Pagnuolo said is a little bit.
Yeah, I saw
A
that.
little bit like, and you know what? I mean, let's not compare quarterbacks to Tom Brady, but there's some Brady in him. He's got that same competitive fire. Like he's not afraid to run over to the other sideline and not afraid to show a little bit of that competitiveness. I like the kid, I really do.
Well,
But
maybe this
in
is
this game,
this is a real life reenactment of the girlfriend and the new girl meme, where it's like you're walking and you turn around, maybe it's like Justin Herbert in one hand, I'm looking back at Joe Burrow. Obviously
Well,
this is with Tom Brady over being the numero uno.
because at some point when Brady moves on, you got to find another favorite quarterback, and it might
assuming Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow are still playing, obviously, you never know. You never know. You never know, John.
Yeah.
All right, 2 more.
Tom Brady is in his 24th Super Bowl.
Yeah, Jesus. I don't know if I could survive all that. Seattle hosting Detroit in what could be and might very well be Russell Wilson's last start in Seattle. He kind of unprovoked brought that up recently. I think they win this game just, for that reason and the fact that the Lions, I think we agree that the Lions play hard, but playing hard doesn't necessarily result in multiple wins. So I think Seattle is going to edge this one out.
I'll call for the upset. I'll take the Lions here. They are at least playing as a team. Seattle looks like it's just completely out of sorts.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe big changes in the offseason, whether it be Wilson or Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll and General Manager John Schneider both have like 5-year deals. So I don't know who's going to just write that big check to get rid of them. Although, Paul Allen's trust or Paul Allen's family owns the team. They get plenty of money. But yeah, I'll go with the Lions in an upset. They do play. Seems like every week they give you an honest effort, if anything.
Well, hey, if anything, you've pretty much picked the opposite of every one of that pick. So this is the most we've differed, and I'm guessing, John, we're going to differ in this next one, the last final matchup of Sunday Night Football, the Green Bay Packers, with Aaron, or someone called him Toe Montana the other day, and I lost it.
I like it. That's
yeah.
my left foot. This left foot that fractured toe.
I don't even know. I think this is like George Costanza at play now right now. That's my opinion. Okay, he's walking around with his cane and really selling the job to his teammate. But anyways, look, Minnesota's already beaten this team. It's highly unlikely that they're going to do it twice in one season. But the Packers have not been flawless the last couple of weeks, and you and I'm sure you admit it as well. They have trouble closing out games, and that could be a tough one against a team that can score points and can certainly create issues defensively. So I will go with the upset, and I'll say Minnesota on the road to win this one.
It's going to be 6 degrees at kickoff, and Kirk Cousins is playing for Minnesota. It's a Sunday night game. Those are 3 factors that I think certainly favor.
I'm completely ignoring right now to make my point.
You have to at that point. Look, I'm thinking Green Bay actually puts forth a better effort than they have. I mean, like you say, slow start, slow finish. In the middle, they're awesome. I mean, it's almost like a compliment sandwich. You know, it's the opposite of a compliment sandwich when you give someone a compliment, criticize them, and end the comment with a compliment. That's the compliment sandwich that I was told to give millennials because, you know, they don't want to get offended. The Packers are the opposite. Start slow, finish slow, and in between really good. I think they'll put forth a good effort and maybe seal up the number 1 seed.
Well, there you go. There you have it, folks.
Yep.
Longest show of the year by far. An hour and 10 minutes. I like it. Way to go out on a bang. So with that, we are going to say thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for making this another fun year on the show. Hopefully next year will be even better. And we look forward to joining you Monday, January the 3rd, the first show of 2022. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy. Be safe tonight. Whatever you decide to do, drink. Otherwise, just be safe. Call an Uber. Don't drive. Just be smart about it. Have a good night. Enjoy football this weekend. And, of course, enjoy the playoffs that are coming up. We'll talk to you soon.